Bem, amigos do Quinto Elemento, estamos aqui em mais uma, e essa não é só mais uma, é a entrevista que a gente vai fazer conversando com o professor Alexander Dugin, que dispensa qualquer apresentação, sendo um dos maiores pensadores da nossa modernidade em relação à geopolítica e outros assuntos, escritor de diversos livros e realmente um dos grandes defensores e criadores do conceito de multipolaridade e também policentricidade. E agora a gente vai conversar com o professor Dugin para ver se a gente consegue ver para onde essa nova ordem, que não é globalista, está caminhando. Professor, muito obrigado pelo seu tempo. É um enorme prazer estar aqui com o senhor. Estamos em Moscou, né, para fazer essa entrevista e eu queria começar com o senhor, deixando que o senhor desse as suas boas-vindas ao pessoal, antes de a gente começar a nossa primeira pergunta para o senhor. Então, vamos lá. Professor, todo mundo fala sobre a questão da hegemonia americana e que essa hegemonia foi formada basicamente por uma questão de soft power cultural, um poder militar muito grande, controle do capital, da imobilidade do capital. Nesse tripé, a gente tem visto a perda da hegemonia americana causada pela dificuldade de financiamento econômico dos Estados Unidos e também da questão cultural, principalmente da mudança da perspectiva cultural. O senhor concorda, quer dizer, que a hegemonia americana foi formada por esse tripé ou o senhor vê outros fatores?
It's very important to understand what is hegemony. And this Greek word initially meant idea of military domination of one power over the other. So that was almost exclusively military concept. And Italian philosopher Antonio Gramsci, a left philosopher, has developed this concept of the hegemony in purely military sense to much larger context. And according to Gramsci, hegemony includes not only military dominance, but as well soft power, cultural influence, influence of codes, of epistemology of special kind, operational system of special kind, economy, culture, information. So hegemony in the sense of Gramsci is multi-level phenomenon. Interesting that in the 70s, this concept of Antonio Gramsci was accepted by conservative philosopher Alain de Benoist, who has written a very important article, Gramsci seen from the right. So we could regard or analyze hegemony in the sense of Gramsci, in this inclusive sense, from the left, as Gramsci himself did, but as well from the right. With following invitation of Alain de Benoist, a French New Right. So this concept is not anymore leftist, the concept of hegemony, because we could criticize it from the left or from the right. That is interesting. So hegemony seen from the right, it is not only as well domination of the NATO, of the United States, of Washington, but as well predominance of some liberal system of values, woke system of values, wokeism, gender, artificial intelligence, progressism, technology, put in spite of the human meanings, all that could be included and should be included in the concept of hegemony. So hegemony is multi-level system, and seen from the right, it is quite opposite to the traditional values, to the Christian norms. All that is goes against against the traditional institution as the state, family, against traditional culture, against the man as such. Human being is put under question in this process of hegemony. So hegemony, I think, is the key concept. In the key concept, not only for the leftists, but as well from the people who reject this wokeism, this tendency that tries to destroy the human being, destroy the tendency who tries to destroy the sex identity, sexual identity of the people, human identity. And it is interesting that this hegemony is historical phenomenon. It is not just deviation, not just something casual. Mm-hmm. It is the logical result of the liberalism as a vision of the world, because the liberalism was started with nominalism against realism in the Middle Ages. Okay. After that, individualism was put inside of the church, and that was Protestant reform against holistic vision of the Catholicism. After that, it was destruction of the traditional estates, the level of the hierarchy of the traditional European society. After that, that was bourgeois revolution against traditional professions, traditional places of the people in the society, and at the same time against Christian theology. So that was anti-Christian tendency of liberalism. Mm-hmm. After that, empires were destroyed by national state, and after that, national state were destroyed in this historical process in favor of civil society, on global society. And the last two phases of this historical process of liberalism as the process of liberation of the individual from any kind of collective identity arrived to the end of the 20th century to the point of consideration that sexual identity as well is collective. So we need to proceed and to liberate human being from sexual identity. Sex becomes optional, and that is the next step. And now we have, in that following this logic, we have to make only one step to liberate, following liberalism, individual from human identity. And human, to be human, becomes optional. You can choose to be human or not, or chimera, or cyborg, or artificial intelligence. You could put your brain in the storage of in the cloud system and in the virtual space, and you can finally cut any relation to the humanity, to the nature of human. So that is the logic of liberalism, and modern day hegemony of the West is precisely that. So it is not only against all the humanity, it is as well anti-Western, because such hegemony cut the roots with the Western culture, with the Western religions, with the Western identities. So everybody is victim of this hegemony, not only non-Western country. That is the main point.
Ok. Então, o senhor entende, na verdade, que quando a gente fala a questão da hegemonia como algo que tem feito vítimas da nossa sociedade, o que acontece é que essa hegemonia ela tenta quebrar uma relação do homem com o transcendente, porque vai deixar ele totalmente livre, né? A ideia de uma liberdade que não existe nenhuma questão transcendente, nenhum limite à liberdade humana. Então, a guerra que nós vivemos nessa questão da hegemonia, como o senhor definiu alguns textos e eu tenho meus pontos sobre isso, é entre a tradição e o liberalismo, é entre o indivíduo e o coletivismo. A gente pode simplificar não simplificar, mas ir na raiz da questão tradição versus liberalismo que virou o wokeismo, na verdade?
Absolutely right. So, first of all, the modern liberalism is clearly anti-human already, post-human. But everything started long before, when the modernity confronted the tradition. So all that started in the beginning of the Enlightenment, in the beginning of the new era of the Western European civilization, when decision was taken in favor of progress against the tradition, in favor of changes, against the continuation of the sacredness, and that was accompanied by the loss of the, precisely as you have said, of the loss of the meaning of the verticality, of transcendence or eternity. So everything was put into the time. Eternity was forgotten and rejected. Everything was put into the matter. Spiritual aspects were judged to be secondary. Everything was put in the material comfort and technical development. All moral elements were forgotten and put aside. So that started like that, and liberalism from the very roots was toxic. And now its toxicity is open for everybody. Now it's much easier to understand how anti-human this ideology is and how counter-natural this ideology, this hegemony is, because it is now manifested. But all the essential elements of these cut relations with transcendence were already present in the beginning of this process. So we need always take liberalism as the historical phenomenon, not to regard, to judge only the final results. It is very dangerous to say modern days liberalism is really evil and bad, but previously it was not so against tradition, it was not so radical. Old liberalism is sometimes is opposed, is considered as something opposed to the new liberalism. But that is methodologically wrong, because old liberalism, old good liberalism is just previous phase of the modern terrible and evil liberalism. So if we need to overcome this hegemony, we need to make a critical revision of the Western modernity. So we need to take a distance in front of this modernity, and we need to rehabilitate the tradition, the eternity, the Christianity, the roots of spiritual world vision. So because with the loss of this Christian, for the West, or traditional sacred world vision, with the loss of tradition, modernity started. And now modernity arrives at its end. That is the end of the history in the eyes of liberals, and in the eyes of Christian is the kingdom of Antichrist. So what is described optimistically by Fukuyama, the same phenomenon is described by church fathers, old Christian authorities, as the kingdom of the Antichrist. So the same event, same phenomenon, same reality, seen from opposite sides, and that is not casual as well. So us against them, and they started to kill the God, and now, because they have succeeded in killing the God for Western civilization, there is no more human being. Without God there is no human. If you destroy creator, the creature is destroyed as well. So the human being has lost its own meaning, its own content. It could not be anymore prove that it is human. And liberalism say, okay, we are in favor of liberation. We are killers of the God, and we are proud to declare that we are killers of the man. But that is modern days hegemony of Biden, of modern days capitalism, of modern day liberalism and globalization. That is like that in the eyes of the man of tradition, of all tradition, not only of Christian tradition, an Islamic tradition, Indian tradition, any kind of tradition. The modern West is the kingdom of evil.
Perfeito. Eu queria voltar a um ponto que o senhor colocou, exatamente é o seguinte. Muitas vezes, o liberalismo, que começou... A gente pode dizer que o liberalismo tem tem transformações. Já foi uma teoria política filosófica, um sistema econômico, teoria política, um sistema econômico, e também agora ele é uma ideologia. Então, ele é uma ideologia. Ao mesmo tempo, ele diz isso: eu quero libertar o homem de qualquer coisa, né? Qualquer transcendente e de qualquer limitação. É o homem sem limite. Só que ele, ao matar Deus, mata a criatura. E aí, muitas vezes, a gente acha, e esse é um ponto que eu queria ouvir do senhor, que é possível um equilíbrio de poder ou de sociedade onde se convivam tradição e liberalismo. Mas a realidade é que o progresso do liberalismo, como metodologia ideológica, ele inevitavelmente não é mais uma questão de direitos individuais de um grupo viver como ele gostaria de viver, mas sim uma imposição, porque agora ele não basta que ele não tenha limite, ele precisa que toda a sociedade não tenha limite, não é isso? Então, qual é a forma, por exemplo, hoje que nós podemos combater? Primeiro, é isso a pergunta, está correto? E segundo, ok, se é impossível harmonizar o liberalismo com a tradição para ter uma sociedade pacífica, qual é o sistema, qual é a forma, qual é o meio de vida que as sociedades ou os países deveriam adotar para combater esse liberalismo que virou o liberalismo ocidental, que se transformou o wokismo, na verdade?
First of all, we need to understand that liberalism is absolutely incompatible with any kind of tradition. Against the pretensions of Hayek and old European or Anglo-Saxon liberals, tradition as something sacred has always element of public or of the common. So you could not be sacred individually. So collectivity, community is the bearer of the sacredness. So you could not you could not affirm and defend something sacred, something transcendental, basing only on individual relations to the God. So that is completely excluded, and that is why liberalism led humanity to the atheistic civilization. But the problem is not in the freedom, because according to Christian faith, according to all traditional religions, human being is absolutely free. It was created like that. And it is not the goal, it is the fact. Because the God has created something that is not himself, but being not himself, not being his tool or his continuation, that means that he has created something free. And that is the meaning, the center of the Christian teaching. So being created free, you can choose freely God and good or evil. And it is absolutely up to you. So you don't need to fight for the liberty. You are totally and absolutely free, because there is no more freedom than in choice between absolute good, that is God, and absolute evil, that is devil. So that is totally different vision. And Christianity never pretended to limit this freedom, but always wanted and tried to cultivate good choice, but always preserving initial natural freedom of human will. That is one of the dogma of the Church Fathers. So that is the basis of our theology, of Christian theology. Mm-hmm. That is free will of free soul, immortal soul. The soul is created immortal and free. Mm-hmm. And liberalism is the projection of this concept on the horizontal level. That is not the global absolute choice of the free will. It is just liberation from the secondary determination of the society, of the culture. And that is the freedom to be evil. That is the freedom to follow devil. That is a revolt against God order, against God creation. So liberalism from the beginning was not neutral morally. It was on the evil side. And it started to destroy traditional communities, sacred organization, and all kind of transcendence. If we think about how we can coexist with liberals, we Christians, we representatives of traditional society can coexist as we coexist with devil. Devil is always here. He is immortal. He is angel. We could not kill devil. So he will be here until the final judgment. But we shouldn't fight him. We shouldn't accept his suggestions. We need at least localize his armies, identify and localize. We need to, for example, we shouldn't attack him. We should defend and protect ourselves from him. The same is quite true for liberalism. We cannot pretend to destroy total liberalism because it is devil. But we need to protect us from it. So if some Western countries and cultures and civilizations welcome devil and become liberals, that's up to them. We deplore their choice, but that is their destiny, but not ours. So first of all, the first step, concrete political, I would say, ideological step, it is to recognize liberalism as local phenomenon, regional phenomenon, historical phenomenon, proper to the Western part of the humanity. And first thing to do is to protect the other part of humanity, other civilizations against liberal pressure. So we need to recognize provincial nature of the Western civilization. So you can be liberal, but I have all the rights in the world because I'm free. I'm created free by God to reject it. So I have all the rights in the world to not recognize universality of liberal democracy, free market, financial system, globalist values, informational channels and network. I am free to say to liberalism, no. And that is very interesting. If old style liberalism could more or less tolerate that, they would like in old time as well to impose, to intervene in the society, trying to promote their values. But if you, in old liberal times, would say, no, I reject that. I am free to accept your values and to reject. Old kind of liberals would say, yes, it's your right. And new kind of liberals are absolutely intolerant with tradition. They say, you have only one right to be liberal, right liberal or left liberal. But if you declare yourself illiberal, we are going to kill you. Because illiberalism is impossible. It's fascism, it's communism, Stalinism, and after that demonization starts. So old-style liberals were much easier to coexist with the people who thought differently. But now it is quite impossible because modern day liberalism is totalitarian. It's omnipresent. He is everywhere. So you could find liberals in any countries, and they are active, they are toxic, they are oppressive, they are absolutely intolerant when the situation comes to the critics of liberalism. So we need first of all liberate our Russian, Brazilian, Indian, Chinese, Islamic society from these toxic networks, liberal networks, because they should be equal with the totalitarian sect. Very dangerous totalitarian sect that should be at least limited or put under surveillance, or better get out from our society because they only destroy them. So I think that first of all we need to say to liberal expansion of imperialism of liberalism, stop here. Here is other society, we are following the other example, and we are free. If you don't accept our freedom, it's up to you. We are free. We are Russians, Brazilians, Chinese, Indians, Iranians, Turkish. We Africans, we are free to say you goodbye. So it's up to you. Liberalism, it's local phenomenon. If you enjoy it, please do that. We deplore your fall, but nevertheless, it's your decision. But it is not universal norm. It is not the law. It is not the dogma. So if you like liberal democracy, parliamentarianism, capitalism, civil rights, gender politics, transgender operation, wokism, it's up to you. It's up to you, but it is not universal, first of all. And after that, we will see what follows.
Esse é um bom ponto, professor, porque o que a gente vê hoje é esse liberalismo, na forma do seu wokismo, trabalhando e utilizando várias ferramentas, e aí trazendo para a realidade não só do pensamento, mas para vendo a materialidade da ação dele, trazendo para, exemplo, empresas. Né? Então, é um liberalismo que é um totalitarismo, quando a gente fala que ele é totalitário, porque ele está forçando empresas a seguir aquele comportamento. E quem não segue aquele comportamento, então é demitido, ou ele não pode, ou a empresa deixa de ter acesso aos benefícios do mercado, né? do crédito, etc. Então tem sido utilizado o dinheiro, a moeda, como forma de implementar esse totalitarismo libertário. O judiciário, né? Criminalizando, por exemplo, o seu direito de debater e dizer não àquele liberalismo, porque ele passa a ser algo obrigatório. Então você vê a mídia também sendo utilizada para isso, a educação, projetos educacionais. Quer dizer, existe uma onda que começa pela visão filosófica do liberalismo, do woke, mas esse pensamento ele tem diversos braços, né? E o senhor acha que essa tensão que existe hoje, aí uma tensão mundial, onde você tem, aí sim, os Estados Unidos, por exemplo, ou liberalismo que capturou os Estados Unidos, utilizando a moeda para poder implementar a sua corrente demoníaca, liberal, ao mesmo tempo que tem usado o sistema judiciário da ONU e as instituições como meio também de forçar a implementação do regime totalitário, e aí vem essa reação de alguns países do Oriente e do Brasil e alguns países cristãos que dizem, não quero isso. E essa tensão que a gente vê hoje na tecnologia, com a inteligência artificial, a guerra dos chips entre China e Estados Unidos agora, o problema da moeda, da desdolarização, isso apenas são manifestações dessa tensão que existe entre o liberalismo woke e as nações ou as culturas, civilizações dizendo, não quero isso aqui. É assim que o senhor vê a dinâmica dessa tensão que existe no mundo hoje?
Exactly. Now, more and more countries in the world, Russia, Brazil, China, Islamic countries, African countries, want to create alternative system. So outside of this totalitarian network, because you're absolutely right. Today, modern days liberalism is not just ideology. It is already things. The ideas, liberal ideas, have entered into the things, into the technologies. Mm-hmm. So that is, and there is no free market. So all markets should be controlled somehow by globalists. Otherwise, you will be destroyed, ruined. So that is more and more ideological tools. So global markets that pretended to be free, finally are just instrument of sanctions, of pressure, of punishment of those who don't accept wokism, and some support from totally incompetent persons on companies, on structure that follow liberal agenda. For example, the level of the European leaders who are totally devoted to the liberalism are humanly, socially very, very low. They are almost idiots. But if you loyal to liberalism, you can be idiot. You can be totally important in the real politics, or totally degenerated person without no brain, but you will be supported, as we see in Europe, for example, and sometime as well in the United States. So clever people, successful initiative, economical, could be ruined by liberals and totally unsuccessful projects supported. So there is no market rationality anymore. They destroy the same market rules that they have introduced before. All liberalism has introduced market fundamental between prices and the demand, but now it is destroyed by big finance. So all this capitalism that is implemented in many country of not first worlds, in second world countries or third world countries, cannot function anymore with rules of the new days capitalism. So we need respond to that, create an alternative economy, second, third world economy, because now we have China that is not totally liberal, and China has mastered to submit liberal economy to the leadership of the state. It is Confucianist empire much more than liberal oligarchy. There is no oligarchy, no trace of oligarchy in China. So I think that India is going the same way, trying to submit liberal democracy to the norms of their identity, of Hindu identity, of their civilization, caste system. And I think that Brazil and Argentina and other countries of the Latin America, Mexico, for example, with Obrador, you try to find your place in this second world with China, with India, with Russia. Russia now is in war with the West, with the hegemony. So Russia leads, first of all, military war. It's a difficult war, to say the truth. China leads economical competition with the first world. India tries to get stronger and more, it becomes more and more independent. I think that it is now the turn of Latin America to define the camp. So or you are on the secondary level under pressure of the first world as a slave, or you are free man, free sovereign civilization in the campaign of the other sovereign and free civilization. So it is multipolarity versus against unipolarity, or with hegemony, to be the slave to the hegemony, or to declare the war to hegemony and try to develop the new structure, for example, of exchange of the products, of economical relations, of the financial capital with not first world country. BRICS, it is the example of that. Shanghai Organization of Cooperation is the other. Eurasian Union, Economical Union, all these second world structures, they could and they will, I hope, replace this hegemonic unipolar structure of global economy, because the majority of humanity lives outside of the West. Majority of the capital now is outside of the West. Majority of natural resources is outside of the West. So we need to recognize and take in consideration our own power. So because they try to empower themselves and make us weaker mentally, because they say, oh, you are not developed, you are with a great level of criminality, you are not such civilizational societies as ourselves are, but that is pure political propaganda. We should say no. We have our own values, we have our own interests, our own goals, our own rules, our own norms, and we have the majority of the humanity on our side, not at yours. That, I think, should be translated into the economy, into the network of business. And that gives the great opportunity to all of us, because we could compete, we could exchange, we could develop our relation, but we should be friends and allies in promotion of this alternative multipolar world structure.
Perfeito. Queria fazer duas perguntas que derivam da sua questão, professor. Primeiro, vendo esses outros países fora a hegemonia do liberalismo, que a gente chama de West, mas é do liberalismo. Não sei se o senhor concorda, mas as civilizações foram construídas a partir de 6 grandes religiões: cristianismo, judaísmo, o Islã, hinduísmo, budismo e confucionismo. A partir dessas 6, existe todas elas, tirando o confucionismo, mas que tem um lado transcendental. Então, a gente, quando está falando nesse momento de uma perda de hegemonia, há um momento de transição, que é o liberalismo wokeista contra esse bloco multipolar, mas que está unido, transcendental. Então, nós temos, antes de falar da multipolaridade como um todo, uma transição de bipolaridade, porque o certo seria cristianismo, hinduísmo, budismo, judaísmo, o Islã, confucionismo se unirem para dizer não a essa autoridade. Então, sim, hoje o senhor vê que nós estamos numa transição entre essa bipolaridade, que é uma transição para, depois de acabar ou conter o liberalismo, o wokeista, a gente possa acertar as nossas diferenças teológicas nesse meio. Pergunta 1. E a pergunta que também deriva dessa questão é a seguinte: como nós, e o senhor tem razão, dizer, olha, nós nos punimos muito por não sermos subdesenvolvidos e não olhamos para os nossos recursos naturais, né, para a nossa posição. Como, por exemplo, nós cristãos olhamos, né, para essa tensão, mas a gente olha e vê o seguinte, que quem o liberalismo realmente ataca, apesar de a gente estar nessa multipolaridade desse lado transcendental, que são as 6 religiões, por que o wokeismo só ataca o cristianismo? Ele não ataca o confucionismo, ele não ataca o Islã, ele não ataca o budismo e ele não ataca o hinduísmo.
Muito interessante. It's very interesting, your questions. First of all, I think that you are right that there is modernity against all traditions, not only against Christian tradition, and hegemony, Western liberal hegemony, is oriented against this sense of the transcendentality or sacredness. So I agree with you that Confucianism doesn't know this transcendentality as the other religions know, as well as some archaic African religions as well. They have not such clearly defined dimension of transcendence, but all of them have sacredness. So Chinese tradition is sacred. African traditions are sacredness. And hegemony goes against the sacredness. That was famous term of Max Weber and Sauberg, der Welt. Desacralization of the world, disenchantment of the world, and that was the main line of the liberal modernity, identity and liberalism. So the liberalism anti-sacred, and you are right as well that we have 2 groups of societies. One group of society that is devoted still to the transcendence dimension, religions, traditional world religions, and there is liberal civilization of the modern globalist West that goes against all kind of transcendentality. It is not just all days bipolarism, it is unipolarism against multipolarism, because there is not only one religion against the other religion, or one absence of religion against the other religion. So there is situation is a little bit more complicated, but that is very important to understand that the modern liberal West is against all the sacred societies, because it is against sacredness itself. So that creates this dualism. I agree with that. So in my opinion, it should not be called new bipolarity, bipolarity, but it is still duality. Duality between sacred and profane, between transcendental and negation, and nihilistic negation of the transcendence. But second question is very important as well. Why they hit more than everything Christianity? Because liberal globalist agenda is oriented not only outside, or goes not against the society outside of the Western liberal sphere and influence, or Western matrix, but as well against the West itself. Because the modernity was formed, was created, was based on the negation of Christianity. And fighting against Christian spirit and Christian values, they fight against their own roots, because they hate Christianity, they hate Christ more than other form of sacredness, because that is the devil who is against all kind of sacredness, but first of all, he is enemy of the Christ. So I think that is revenge of the devil, of Judah against the Christ, or a Carthage against the Rome. That is the revenge of the Satan, who was defeated by the Christ and his kingdom in Holy Empire, in the sacredness of the Middle Ages. And with the beginning of the new era, he started to take revenge against Christ. So the modern liberal Western civilization hates most of all Christianity, because it hates its own sacredness, because there is the sacredness in the people of the West, and in the many societies of the West still lives the spirit of the transcendentality, but under influence of this domination of this anti-Christian, and the elite of Antichrist, liberal elite is the elite of Antichrist. They have submitted their own population to the rule of the devil, and they have taken from them their liberty, the freedom, and they transformed their population in the puppets, in the slaves, and now they will smiling, enjoying coming in the concentration camp of virtuality, of mutation, and the post-human, transgender, transhuman entities, singing the chants of the devil openly. So they are Western civilization is totally enslaved and totally deprived of any kind of the freedom, of any kind of the free will. And they are totally mechanized and put on the road to hell. They think themselves about that proudly. So we are on the road to hell. They think that, they enjoy it. So that is the final stage of the appearance of Antichrist and its civilization. And that is why they hate Christ more.
E nesse ponto, professor, existem diversas iniciativas, né? E a gente tem que saber combatê-las. Porém, a perseguição tem sido muito grande, porque, por exemplo, no Brasil, existem várias formas de tentar controlar as redes sociais, através de legislação, inclusive, para tirar o direito de livre expressão, controlá-lo e atribuir, por exemplo, a questão da fé, ou questões específicas da fé, como se fossem discursos de ódio, para inverter o polo da questão e acabar perseguindo cristãos, ou tirando a liberdade das pessoas dizerem não, porque elas não vão poder dizer não àquilo, porque aquilo, dizer não ao liberalismo será um discurso de ódio. A gente vê diversas iniciativas, mas talvez a mais preocupante, porque existem várias, educacionais, financeiras, e eu queria ouvir o senhor sobre isso, é sobre a formação, que é muito, nesse aspecto, aí sim, religiosa, né? Do sentido da criação, conto sagrado, da formação do novo homem, uma nova antropologia. Porque, no final das contas, a teoria queer é isso. É dizer que o homem é uma livre construção da sua subjetividade e que você não é real na sua substância. Então, que você não tem sexo, que você pode ser o que você quiser, basta que você imagine o assim você deseja. Ao mesmo tempo, vem a inteligência artificial e vem a ideia do transhumanismo, dos chips, de implementar um chip que otimize o seu pensamento, e isso formaria também um novo homem. Essa teoria queer, ela converge em algum momento para transhumanismo, por isso que os dois são prefixo trans, não é por isso, mas os dois convergem em algum momento para a formação desse novo homem, onde até o homem, então, antigo, nós seremos considerados quase que seres antiquados e subdesenvolvidos e, portanto, não mais necessários.
That is very, very important. First of all, transgender politics or gender politics is the kind of phase of the transhuman. So transgenderism leads us to artificial intelligence, to transhumanism, and that is just the last stage of the historical liberalism, liberation of the individual of any kind of collective identity. Women, men are collective identities, so they should be destroyed, and human is as well collective identity. So individualism outside of humanism, outside of humanity, that is the logical goal of liberalism. But very interesting, and that is new anthropology. It is post-anthropology. It is not just anthropos, that the man, it is post-anthropos, this individual, post-human individual. That is the goal. To this goal, many tendencies are confluent in the liberalism, in the politics, in the cultural, in the science, in the education, and the network, and the economy. But what is interesting? So, modern days liberalism is neither right nor left. It is convergency of the right and left, because big finance is traditionally economically right, free enterprise, and so on. But a huge amount of money is in the hand today of the small part of global financial oligarchic elite, who at the same time are in favor of this work culture. And they try to use the left to promote these kind of post-humanism, new anthropology you have said. So that is combination of big economical right and cultural Marxism or left. It is not normal left that is fighting for social justice. Nothing of that. New left. The left, new liberal left, is fighting for migration, for this, against the church, against the marriage, against the men, and not against the capital. So interesting. They don't defend anymore the man of labor, of work. They have nothing to do with the real workers. Mm-hmm. New modern liberal left, it is the tool in the hand of globalists. They are totally controlled by liberals as well as the economic right. So that is the problem for Brazil as for other societies. We need to unite the real right of tradition, of defenders of traditional values, with transcendent dimension, I have said, with that some kind of the left that is fighting for the social justice, against the big capital, for the liberation of the small worker, small farmers. Okay. And this will create a new duality, new bipolarity inside of society, not outside of the same society. Mm-hmm. It is inner bipolarity, the liberal right-left elites against illiberal right-left people. Because if we see normal people who at the same time, the normal people, normal man or normal woman, doesn't fit in the caricature of the left and right, because they unite normally, organically, some kind of tradition, defense of the family, of some morality, and demand for social justice in the same persons. They could not split their, for example, their voting for right or for left. They are natural bearers of both social justice and traditional values. So we need reorganized political field. I'm calling that fourth political theory. Mm-hmm. So we need attack liberalism not from traditional left or traditional right, trying to avoid Marxism and nationalism or fascism, creating new kind of ideology that could unite those who are for social justice with those who are for traditional values. And the traditional liberals, they try to separate us, to put us to fight against each other, far left against far right, so-called. And finally, there is establishment left who shares liberal agenda. There is establishment right who shares capitalist agenda, and they are united in the pole of modern globalist elite. And we need to organize another pole, alternative pole, the pole of the people. Right-left people against right-left elite, but we differently right and left because they are right for capital and we are right for tradition. They are left for anti-traditional values and we are left for social justice. So the definitions of right and left should be put in front of this new politics. We need totally new politics in Latin America, in Russia, in other countries.
E é muito interessante isso, professor. Isso eu queria explorar um pouco mais, que é o seguinte. O Tomás de Aquino, para os católicos, São Tomás de Aquino, ele colocava muito bem que era necessário você limitar na filosofia, na teologia, o status da discussão. E a esquerda, como sempre, por exemplo, não a esquerda, o liberalismo, o mal, sempre distorce, né? E eles limitaram. Então tá bom, então vou limitar. Hoje, talvez a grande maioria das pessoas não entendam que a limitação, e por isso que a esquerda define tanto a direita, ela gosta de definir a direita, vocês são isso, porque ela acaba limitando indiretamente o estado da discussão e retirando a possibilidade de uma cosmovisão cristã, por exemplo, do cenário. E você fica entre esquerda e direita, mas que no final são braços da mesma cabeça, que é o liberalismo do jeito que está hoje. E aí vem uma pergunta prática. Ok, é verdade, e a grande maioria dos jovens, por exemplo, quando começam a entender de política, a primeira pergunta que fazem é: você é esquerda ou você é direita? Na verdade, já está jogando ele para o colo do diabo, né? Jogando ele para o colo do mal. Mas, e aqui no Brasil nós temos alguns políticos também que falam: eu sou conservador. Mas se conservador não for redefinido sob a ótica da tradição ou de uma cosmovisão cristã, ele está no mesmo lugar de sempre. Não seria o caso de nós iniciarmos e do lado acadêmico e pensando na política, ser o motor para criar essa rede, esse network entre políticos que agora precisam ser não só formados, mas até alertados também sobre esse modelo, que defender esse liberalismo à direita também é estar com o mal, é também estar com o wokeismo, e a gente formar uma nova base política, não só dentro do Brasil, mas uma rede política que trabalhe mundialmente em conjunto, políticos do Brasil com políticos na Inglaterra, com políticos na Rússia, com políticos na China, mais complicado, né? Mas no Oriente, nos Estados Unidos, porque também temos cristãos lá dentro que acreditam na mesma visão que nós, no México, quer dizer, não criar um network alternativo nesse sentido, né, mas que possa ter um programa em conjunto de formação, treinamento, que vai mudar a visão política dos países e da interação entre eles, mas também formar gente nova, porque a maioria dos políticos acabam caindo na mesma conversa do liberalismo à direita. Não deveria, quer dizer, quem poderia ser o motor, ou pelo menos a ponte intelectual para montar essa rede de políticos, nessa nova definição de políticos à direita?
First of all, I would like to say that for the right politics, we should find the new criterion of auto-definition. So, first of all, right conservative or right liberal doesn't cover the exact reality of such people who defend traditional values. So maybe better to call them traditionalists, maybe. Traditionalists, it's clear. So if you are for sacred tradition, for Christianity, for religion, for moral, you are against anti-human, malign and mainstream politics. So that is quite comprehensible in all countries. So you come to Russia, you come to United States, you come to Islamic states, maybe not today in China, because there is particular case. But if you came to almost all society and declare yourself traditionalist, you will find immediately in the political circle, in economical circle, in the culture, some groups. So this network, it should not be created, it should be linked together. It exists. That is interesting. So this kind of network exists, but there are gaps between Latin America and United States, between the United States and Europe, between Europe and Russia, Russia and Africa, Africa and Islamic states. But we need to link them, and that is very important. First of all, second point, I think that this creation of the network of the traditionalists, helping each other, promoting each other cases and initiatives, supporting initiatives. So first, we should not reject the left, because the path of the left is on our side. So we need as well to establish the relations in our countries that liberals prohibit that, but we need to overcome this inertia and this law to divide and rule of liberals, and to start to establish relation with the social-oriented, anti-capitalist, anti-globalist left. And that is made, for example, with Constanzio Preve, great Marxist philosopher of Italy, and his disciple, pupil Diego Fusara, modern days Italian philosopher. They both are Marxists who are totally in line, totally in agreement with us traditionalists, with Christians, with defenders of traditional identity, society, state, all our values. So that is interesting, and they teach us, such people as Preve, as Fusara, teach us that defense of the social justice is not liberal, it is popular. It should be considered to be part of our tradition, because we want, every normal people want justice, just some help of the other, some altruism of the society. And economic right is very, very negative toward that. So because it is anti-socialist. And we need to reinvent new politics based on acceptance of the social justice and acceptance of the traditional, to put them together. So we as well, we should not imagine or create both. We need to link. That is now a kind of imperative or the challenge of our situation. And I suggest my book, Forced Political Theory, that is published in almost all languages. Recently, 2 days ago, I have received the translation of my book, Forced Political Theory, in the African language Hausa. I think no leader, no philosopher in the world could boast to have its book translated by the enthusiasts, African enthusiasts in Hausa. So it is, I think that is something incredible, because everybody needs to find the exit from this trap. Liberals on the top, right and left, help fighting each other, have to conserve and secure the liberals their all absolute rule, and far left and far right fighting each other, radically demonized and sacrificed and by the system. So losing themselves in the periphery, in the dissipation and perversion and degeneration of the far right or far left. So forced political theory is the way for Africa, because they are they want to reject liberalism, but they have already very bad experience of the nationalist dictatorship and leftist experiments. So everybody needs something new. Brazil needs something new. Africa needs something new. We Russians, we need something new. And Iranians, for example, they have discovered, they have identified, Iranians, forced political theory as their system of velayat-e faqih, of their system of rule. And more people in China as well recognize the value of forced political theory. It is difficult for them because there is some criticism of the traditional left, and they still are ideologically left, but they they discover more and more Confucianist dimension of their society. They are more and more open toward ancient history and ancient imperial identity of China. So I think that the process is everywhere. So we need alternative to all three political ideologies. We should, in one day, should come when we will stop to identify ourselves as left or right, in order to obtain and to find a new name for us. And maybe in each country, in each society, there will be different name. By this fourth position. But I think that has become more and more actual, and I think that Russia, who now leads the more radical fight with the hegemony, could be regarded as hub, not as a leader, just hub of this network, example of this ideological process of liberation from liberalism, from liberation of hegemony. It could be called counter-hegemony, the other word of Gramsci.
O senhor sabe que eu tive o prazer de entrevistar no programa que a gente tem no Brasil, no Quinto Elemento, junto com meus outros colegas, o Rui Pimenta, que é o presidente do PCO, Partido da Causa Operária, que é um partido marxista, ultramarxista, digamos assim, mas tradicionalista marxista. E na época que ele foi ao programa, alguns brincaram, né, que a gente estava virando comunista, e alguns perturbaram ele dizendo que ele estava virando bolsonarista, direita, etc. Mas o que é interessante, óbvio nós temos nossas diferenças de mundo, nós temos nossa diferença, inclusive, a teoria marxista, mas existe uma convergência contra a cultura woke. E ele é de esquerda, e ele vira e fala, isso a gente não concorda, e isso está destruindo a vida do operário, do trabalhador. Então ele fala assim, isso está destruindo a vida desse cara. Então, ele não é pela questão meramente da escolha, família, que é importante, e se é uma escolha dele, tem que ser respeitada, mas também pela própria questão de emprego, né? Imagina um garoto que faz um curso e ele perde uma vaga porque houve uma pauta identitária e não, né, ele perdeu porque foi preservada uma pauta identitária e ele ficou de fora. Quer dizer, a ideia de que quem vai perder emprego ou oportunidades é o rico, ou branco, porque está sendo substituído por uma pauta identitária, é uma mentira. Quem perde também é o trabalhador. E aí você vê exatamente essa convergência tradicional em muitos aspectos entre nós e a esquerda. Só que existe esse preconceito de que nós não podemos falar com a esquerda porque senão nós somos comunistas também. E o que na verdade acontece é que a gente tem que criar esse link para ser uma pauta anti-woke. E é um exemplo clássico de pessoas da esquerda em que isso está conectado, né? Eu queria fazer uma última pergunta, professor, a gente está no estourei do nosso tempo, o seu tempo, que está ligado exatamente a essa estrutura final do mundo que a gente está falando. Vencemos o wokeismo, porque é uma moda, eu acho que é uma moda pós-modernista. Ela vai passar. É uma moda muito dura, mas eu acho que nós vamos conseguir lutar contra. Qual seria o dia seguinte nessa nossa nova multipolaridade transcendental? Como seria um equilíbrio de poder? Temos que, por exemplo, refazer as Nações Unidas, temos que refazer o sistema Bretton Woods, ou apenas é uma questão de substituir o liberalismo, tirar dele as influências que ele exerce sobre esses meios?
First of all, it's very difficult to imagine a multipolar world because it demands many efforts to spend and many victims. So it is not easy because we are fighting not with only one moment of the present history, but with all this history. We have against us 500 years of the Western history that we need to put back, to cancel, and as with all these extreme pretensions of the global rules, so we need to kill or win Leviathan, the dragon, the big dragon that is wounded, but he's still alive, and that is very, very dangerous. So it will be not easy. So we need to be prepared for the long and hard battle. But if we consider the new day, the new dawn of after liberalism after liberal world, I think that that will be the dialogue of the empires. The dialogue in any senses, the dialogue and the economical relations based on the rules that will follow from the collective balance of power, of interest, of distribution of resources. So there will be no one instance who will dictate. You should buy, you should sell, the price as such, market is everything, and discount everything. So no dogmas. So if China thinks it's good, if you find it convenient, you go this way. If not, no. So nobody could impose the rules, and maybe there will be very small quantity of the common accepted rules, but they should be really democratically accepted by everybody, by the West. No system. If there will be one system, it should be based on the consensus of all sovereign subjects, not imposed by one side. That is main concept. There could be conflict, as always. There could be war, there could be peace. The human nature is not peaceful, not savage. It is balance of the good and evil. We are free, so there will be the war. We are free, so there will be the war, and we are free to stop them. We are free as well to make peace, to stop them, to not begin them. We are free, totally free. There is no law that could prohibit war, but there should be no law that will make war necessary. It all depends on our freedom. So we shouldn't exclude the war, but we should try to avoid them and try to decide everything peaceful. It's very realistic. It is like always. It is like always before hegemony. And hegemony came with pretension to stop all the wars and impose the global international peace, and the carnage and destruction of humanity became industrial, became huge, because insist too much on the peace, it is the same as insist too much on the war. It is killer's attitude. So we need accept human attitude, not to kill, not to stop the war, but try to avoid them, but recognizing they are possible. So this balance of the poles in multipolar world should be based on this recognition. But it is very common and very natural for different civilizations to accept the reality and to stop when they could not go further. And that is, our world will be human and will be related to the God, to the transcendence, related. But we shouldn't replace the God. So we are just creatures, and we are not absolute. And we could make errors, and we could make sins and make good deeds. The history will be open. The history will continue, and the West will try to find its own role in its own place. And I hope they will restore their real tradition. They restore their Christian roots. They restore the Greco-Roman heritage that they try now to cancel in their Wokist, furious attitude to their own roots. So I think they will return to themselves, and they will be considered a very important part of this multipolarity, because our fight is not against the West, but against anti-Western globalist elite that has sacrificed the Western identity.
Perfeito, professor. Bom, muito obrigado. Spasiba. Muito obrigado. Foi um prazer a entrevista. Queria agradecer bastante. Foi muito esclarecedor. A gente faz muita reflexão sobre a guerra que ainda tem pela frente. Eu queria agradecer você também do Quinto Elemento. Esse é o professor Alexander Dugin, que conversa sempre sobre sobre várias questões do mundo. Inclusive, falou aqui que tem um livro sobre a Quarta Teoria Política, que foi traduzido agora para a África também, né? Então, siga o professor Alexander Dugin, tem canais no Telegram, vídeos e outros livros e textos para entender mais sobre a questão da multipolaridade, a Quarta Teoria Política e principalmente a guerra contra o wokeismo, ou o que o liberalismo quer fazer conosco, o totalitarismo liberal, tá? querendo impor. Muito obrigado você do Quinto Elemento. Não se esquece de curtir, compartilhar, comentar, mandar para o seu amigo liberal que acha que está brigando por um mundo melhor e só está sendo um totalitário. Muito obrigado, professor, mais uma vez. Spasiba e até a próxima, pessoal.
Muito obrigado.
Obrigado.
Muito obrigado.
We might take a picture very quickly from me and